Hello, this is Jacob from Flow Health, and I'm just gonna kind of keep going my videos. And today's video is how the military helped me out and how that has been a big part of Flow Health. All right, so when I first started, I think the last video just mentioned how wasn't a lot going for me where I was growing up. At the moment, I knew there was a lot more for me, and I chose the Air Force to get out. Not for any particular reason except for that I heard it was the smart branch, and they took care of its people a little bit better. I just wanted to say my motivation, you hear a lot from a lot of people, other people's motivation for going in are to be a war fighter, and actually some people say to even kill somebody, you know, which isn't really any of the reasons why I went in. What I did want to do is just find something better for me, and I'm just trying to think of the whole story real quick. So when I took the ASVAB, you have to do that. I scored high enough on it. I was just going in, this is for everybody, open general, and I was interested in something medical, and I thought I was going to be doing physical therapy. That's what I was going to try to make I was going to use the Air Force to do what I needed to do. So basic training was in January 1st, 2000, right after the FISH 99 2000 Florida Everglades New Year's Eve show. And the reason I joke around and say the Air Force is because they said that we could aim high. So just a joke, but it was after a fish fest, so you never know. It's half a joke, but man, it's so beautiful today. So what else? Yeah, so I went in open general, did basic. Craziest story from basic. And this is kind of another way just to say people talk shit all day long. You never know who they are until they're tested. And they had this one guy in basic, he was like, oh, my uncle this, colonels, and everybody saying shit about their family. And man, this guy, he ends up being in our dorm while this one TI, this training drill instructor or whatever, is in there. She's a small female instructor named Sergeant Martinez, because where I was leaving from in Georgia is called Martinez, Georgia, and trust me, I got ripped for that one pretty hard. Anyways, so basic was quite the experience because you get a chance to see like how different you are when it comes to reprogramming your brain. Things like eating in the chow hall, you have to pronounce yourself, and if you do it wrong, everybody has to wait, and the more you wait, the less time you have to eat because everybody else has got to eat too. So I guess it's a good lesson in teamwork. And so this guy, I think his name was Beck, anyways, this sergeant lady called me up. It was like, Trainee Beck thinks he's special. And so I was just at attention listening to this lady, and then she was like, Trainee Beck thinks training is too hard for him. And next thing you know, this guy does a perfect about face, hits his headbutt on the locker, turns right back about face perfectly, stands right back up at attention in front of me and this drill sergeant, and she's like, Airman Nolan, take him to the mental health ward or whatever. So that was my first time where I really got like snacks and a bunch of stuff, and it was unfortunate that I had to be that way, but I mean, it is what it is. Apparently in war you got to keep going, right? So after basic, I met a guy, huge guy. I think he was what I would call the definition of a Norse god. I remember he did like that, and his little thing popped up bigger than that. It was ridiculous. Physical attributes were off the chain. Now this is kind of where it comes into what am I doing after basic training. And so I decided there was this thing in the medical field called pararescue. And so I go, all right, you get to try out on a Saturday. And it was like a swim, underwater swim, run, push-ups, sit-ups, flutter kicks. And, you know, I've been in high school smoking and drinking and cutting up and, you know, just messing around. And I might not have been in the greatest shape, or I hadn't even prepared to join the Air Force, is the best way to put this. And then, beautiful. So, I'm taking the pass test for the first time, and I'm always getting to my flutter kicks and just kind of like dying at the very end. It's like a mile run after a swim, all these calisthenics. I forgot to put the cap in. Anyways. Alright, so pass test was a no-go. A couple times in basic, and I kind of like feathered my way in a couple doors to get a little bit deeper look into what pararescue was. Went a couple of their meetings, did a bunch of stuff, tried to meet some more, and so failed. Anyways, didn't get the pararescue training route, but got in the open general security forces. And so apparently in the Air Force, security force member is a law enforcement officer that is technical in ground combat skills and operations, which sounded great. I thought it was unique that I'd be a cop as well. It's kind of funny, but unique in a way where I could learn everything and just, you know, see that human nature is very malleable. So I'd been getting a bunch of trouble in high school, and here I had the opportunity to be a cop in the military. So I was whatever, and at this moment thinking missile base, I could kind of go to maybe a different location and chill. So I'm in there, and all I hear next is this shit about this Marine Master Sergeant in charge of Team 5. And everybody's like, you don't want to be on Team 5. And, you know, so I see people skating through. It's kind of look like an easy ass shit. And, you know, it's a whatever. And then next thing you know, I'm stuck on Team 5 with this Master Sergeant from the Marine Corps in the Air Force. And I think this is where things really started changing for me, because this was an unfamiliar environment. You know, who knows what to do with a Marine in the Air Force that's teaching you what a security force member is supposed to be like. Well, this guy, apparently the Air Force opened up a new unit idea stemming from Vietnam. Now this is where I become a piece of Air Force history right now, and I guess the kind of relevance of this video. Alright, in Vietnam, the Air Force had airmen jump in with Rangers, and when Rangers seize an airfield, the airmen would jump in and set up defensive perimeter and do short range patrols, and allow the Rangers to kind of go do a little bit more longer range patrolling. And then they could kind of set up the air base for the area. So they started to do this again to ramp up operations in the Middle East. And this is kind of in history where little Jacob's trying to get out of all this stuff and get in a new position in life. It's got to get alchemized by this military program first. Alright, so during this shit, I'm meeting this guy, and he is top of the line, hardcore, squared away. I make a lot of jokes about this shit, but 3 things that this man taught me was how to clean, how to iron, and how to war fight. And it's just funny that those 3 things stick with me the most with my life. You know, in my earliest memory of like seeing this guy, he was just like a regular guy. He was even a little bit smaller than me, which turned out to be crazy because he was twice my age when I was 19. Rocking with him when he was teaching me this stuff. He had his sleeves down and creased, I had my sleeve up, rucking with another guy that was on our team when we finally got to our unit, the 820th Security Forces Squadron, down at Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, Georgia. We looked at each other like, I guess we should have had our sleeves down, blouse and iron ready to cut somebody's throat. And it was just a very interesting period to be a kid and getting this weird training like on your birthday, handcuffing techniques. That was pretty interesting and unique. Then after that, it's a couple of different weapons, which, you know, I never really had a father who taught me how to shoot or anything like that. So this was really all kind of new. I had some shooting game in the country, you know, obviously, and I had found a gun that my father had a long time ago, and I shot the only round that they had in that bag. But yeah, really no previous gun ownership or shooting in my family. And so here I am on the range, and I'm calling on 9mm and 16s. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm a security forces member. Well, when I graduated, this guy had handpicked, it was supposed to be the next team over, right? It was just this Marine going to this new unit. Well, he handpicks 5 of us to go into this new unit that he could go ahead and say that he trained, that he trusted, and all this stuff to start the main body coming through. And yeah, lo and behold, I was one of the 5. And one of the first people to deploy to Kuwait in this new unit. But yeah, so after I got to this new unit, they gave us the opportunity to start getting trained up. Hey, how's it going, y'all? Pretty good. It's a beautiful day today.
Yeah, it's so nice, man. Just hanging out.
Y'all enjoy the rest of it. Alright, well, so let me get back to the story of training. Alright, so this is where shit got really cool. I appreciated this training more than I did. Part of it was realizing what you had to do for war, to be successful in war. And that's just what the nature of my job description was, I guess. To train to deploy. It was a train to deploy unit where one body would be at rest or at leave. There'd be one body in training to deploy, like a stand-up X, and then you'd have one deploying. And so we were the first body to deploy after training. And this was some pretty cool training because it didn't just stop at the 9mm or the 16. They gave us the 249, the 60, which was my favorite, the destructive power on the other end of whatever was behind that. It seemed just a tragedy, if you really think about it. But the 60 and the Mark 19 and the, let's see, 249, 9, 16, 60, there's a couple of good ones. Anyways, all I'm saying is wild enough to where it transfers even in the civilian world to just you're a little bit more proficient at weapons. And trust me, as a military trained cop, it's like I felt like my trigger discipline was a little bit better and more accurate than these civilian cops. You know, I hate to say it, but I mean, if they don't have the same rules of engagement in the civilian sector and they're killing civilians like that, I mean, they literally are gonna get court-martialed in the military courts. And that's just something I don't understand. But anyways, what's up, y'all? Move. Beautiful day, eh? Beautiful day. But yeah, so anyways, got trained up, you know, found out what it was like to ruck more than enough to kind of go around situations, what it's like to creep up on the enemy, what it's like to know that the Geneva Convention is going to teach you that you can't act like you're an enemy combatant that's been defeated and then get back on the battlefield. That's illegal. There's a whole bunch of cool war rules when it comes to the secret art of warfare that they teach you in the military. All right, back when I was going in, this is just real shit I gotta say. You know, I didn't have these weapons. I got out 10 days before 9/11 happened. So I'm a pre-9/11, got locked into the military baby. The crazy thing about some of this is yeah, when I went over there as that unit, being in this unit, we were the only ones allowed to drive through country. We were at Al Jaber Air Base, Kuwait, and then we went to the Kuwait City International Airport. I think there were like 3 checkpoints we had to go through, or those Americans in the Suburbans and the collared shirts and all that shit with the weapons underneath the windows. You know, it was an experience because they weren't just holding us on these bases in Kuwait. You know, we were going to the KCIA and kind of seeing the state of this country. And it was a Muslim country, first time I'd been to a Muslim country. And some of the stuff that they holler out in those temples is kind of crazy, you know, to see the fundamentalism of their religion. And what else? I just, you know, just armed to the teeth. I did some shit like just, we could rent bikes and I would jump these berms and go off base. You know, I definitely wasn't supposed to be doing any of that. But I didn't have anybody to ride bikes with, and so I could do whatever I wanted to. And of course, I'm finding classes of AK-47s and RPGs, and this was back when I was 19. And so when I was over there, the USS Cole bombing took place, which was the only terrorist act while I was deployed. Which, we weren't in a state of declared war or emergency, but we were in the highest threat con that you can be in without being just in a declared war. So, that was so I guess one thing is you just train and train and train. So 5 days a week before I was deploying, I was training. Then while I was deploying, we would do our shifts, which were like 16-hour shifts. We'd go arm up for an hour, drive to KCIA for an hour, pull a 12-hour, drive back, de-arm. Then we still have to eat, you know, try to collect some mail, do a workout, and then go to sleep. It was 3 on, 1 off for, I think, like 90, it was like a little over 90 days, which wasn't too bad compared to what they're doing when the war started. But one thing that really irks me is, after 9/11 happened, they tried to sell these weapons of mass destruction. Now, for some reason, we know that I had a brain injury. I suffered a brain injury while on active duty. One of the things that was really hurtful was how they were like, oh no, Troop, you're good to go, because I was so fit when I was training for pararescue. And I was the type of civilian mentality that was like TAC-P, what was SEER, I tried out for that one after I didn't make pararescue, and then I ended up in this special unit in the security forces membership ranks. Let's see. Yeah, good deployment, seeing how the culture over there was. We were riding through and I saw these tanks and these oil pipelines around these tanks and these black pools. This was the most significant thing about my whole military experience. I go, what's all this? What are those black pools, Sergeant? He goes, well, son, they got so much oil over here, they don't even care to clean it up. And so that's part of why I think when I got out, my consciousness was to not get a vehicle because I didn't want my people killing and dying for oil. And that kind of consciousness connected with it. I could see it then. And you know, so I've actually kind of patterned my life on a less karmic scale than everybody else, because they've subscribed to this notion that just because a politician signs a piece of paper that you can go murder people. Well, what people don't understand was when I was naive and stuff, because this is really just conscious training, even though, I mean, that's what this life is, even though we don't really realize what we're going through to become more conscious and to gain more awareness. When I was in the military, I thought it was all swell and dandy, and you know, we're just kind of checking on things, making sure our interests are upheld by having, you know, the world be policed fairly in a sense. And once I got out, I heard about this satanic ritual that these globalists in power perpetrated on the United States. They willingly sacrificed these 2,000 people to gain uncontrolled power and wealth. Now, one of the things my brain injury did was knock out the programming. And being trained by a Marine, you kind of got to get over the fear aspect. And you do hold a sense of integrity. I believe that, you know, just as in General Smedley Butler, when the private interest in the Wall Street corporate takeover, they tried to actually do a coup and have a Marine general, which was probably the worst, because civilians don't understand the integrity of a Marine and how that does separate the programming. And once you get into the word and you become more conscious and aware, you learn how spelling works and how to use spelling and spells to do things. Right, just spy shit that people do in the secret art of warfaring, which is a lot to do with psychological warfare. Because how do you want to win a war if you're me? I don't want to win a war. I want to win a war without taking anybody's life. All right, and that's kind of like, you know, as a war fighter now, this is kind of the conscious war that I'm involved into. Is I'm not trying to take anybody's life. I don't have any weapons. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you enough information to let you see that there are people who are trying to manipulate you, right? Just as a sense of a civilian with a conscious mind who went through an experience, and all of a sudden you have to decide, what is morality? Would morality be me go kill somebody because somebody said it was legal? Or is morality the knowledge of moral right and moral wrongdoing, and then not being able to compromise on that unless you're willing to pay the consequences, the cosmic law consequence? All right. And before I knew this shit, when I got my motorcycle accident, I was fit and healthy and wanted to go use the Air Force to give me what I thought was the tip of my medical spear, as in being a PJ. So if you ask me, PJ is just something is a title. All right, Pararescue Man is the title that you gain when you do an unsurmountable amount of training in the U.S. Air Force to become an elite rescue person in one of the most elite rescue squadrons on the face of this planet. That's how I felt about it. That's how much respect I give it now, and I'll give it to the day I die. I was never a PJ, but I will tell you this. There are these stories about people getting saved by the PJs who get these green feet tattooed on them, right? Because you're saved by the Jolly Green. I believe I could get my green feet because I was totally saved by them because of their mentality instilled in me to never quit. This water is not the same when you're having somebody hold you down in it, right? It's not nice, it's not pretty, it's not anything. It's scary as fuck, right? You get mad every day that you got to go under this water. It's a different kind of feeling, huh? And you know, my boys that were there training me in that shit know that they've held me under too long. And you know, yeah, there are times I don't even want to train anymore, like give up and shit, but I just could never fucking really find that as part of my past. So I feel like I really had to get into this brain injured state in order for me to kind of not be a pararescue man, but I still was a PJ on the inside. And you ask me, how do I know? I go, well, because even after pararescue, I tried to do the civilian equivalent, which was flight medicine. And at the same time, I was trying to build off of this idea where this guy had went hiking, and he actually cut off his arm, and they made a movie out of it. I said, oh, well, what I'll do is I'll just start a cost-effective way to send out these rescue beacons to people as a businessman, and I'll just have my own helicopters, and if they ever get in trouble, I can just get my pilots to fly me out there, and I'll do that. And obviously, when I was doing my clinical nursing, I found out I can't handle fecal matter, and so crying and all that, it's not going to work in a clinical environment. So I was devastated. I'd already spent 6 years in school with a brain injury, going through remedial math, remedial English. Never quit, and just knowing, like, look, if it's on me, work out, work your brain, get exercise for the mind. That was just kind of how it worked. Yeah, so they were trying to puff me up and get me in air assault school, and I told them, no, this isn't what I'm trying to tell you. Something's wrong with my brain. You're giving me orders like this, I can hear you, but I can't really understand what you're saying. And I don't want to be the one who gets involved in a gunfight and a battle with explosions and have the wrong thing come off on my brain, and me have some people that are killed because of it. That was like true realizations to me. Like, I'm not going to be responsible for these people's lives consciously like that. Not going to happen. You can't re-blue me. You can't shame me. I am having difficulties understanding things, and nobody's listening to me because I look like I should be a PJ. And I train like I'm one, like I'm knowledgeable one. So I went AWOL, and they kind of took a step back, and they made me learn that man in the mirror to re-blue me. And it goes, when you get what you want and your struggle for self and the world makes you king for a day, just get to a mirror and look at yourself and see what the man has to say. For it isn't your parents, your children, or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. Some people may say you're a straight shooting chum and call you a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. For he's the fellow, please never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end, and you've passed your most dangerous, difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of life and get pats on your back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you cheated the man in the glass. And I think, honestly, having met Sergeant Chambers, having been in the special unit where all we did was train to deploy, I probably would not be able to just tell you what it's like to just keep going, you know. And then how I want to put all this together with my videos. Alright, so how I feel like it deserves to be connected is like the aggravation of being a civilian and kind of being under the control of people who might not be as conscious, right? Who might be programmed to be a certain level of consciousness even. To me trying to break away from all that, get on my own, somehow finding out a path of a warrior, and then getting out because of a brain injury, right? And that brain injury was one of those ones that legitimately knocked the programming out of my head, so I was questioning everything. All right, I'm in the military now. You want me to go kill people, right? With this new badge that I'm getting, and so I'm getting all these nice, cool guns. So don't fucking sugarcoat this shit, right? I'm going in a fucking battle, and that's where I deserve to be. That's where I belong to be. But guess what? With my friends and me like this isn't where I'm ready to be. And That was a huge responsibility to just be able to say that. Yeah, so I got out. I asked them for a little support, a little help with my brain injury. They're like, they just kind of done. So for 15 years after that, I didn't even give a fuck about the military and how they helped me, because I definitely saw how they give a fuck about their vets and shit. And it wasn't till after I got into deep trouble did the governor of Georgia, Zell Miller, I guess this is my whole veterans path, I guess, in a video. The governor of Georgia passed this legislation where vets don't get out briefings. And so he noticed that a lot of us were not fitting back into society well. So he created this Veterans Rehabilitation Treatment Court program, which is a 2-year program for veterans to go through a court-oriented program. And I'm talking about 5 days, and this is all mandatory, just like everything is in the military. 5 days of treatment, 4 hours a day, during the week. We had to go 90 days and 90 for Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, whichever one we choose. Some of the Vietnam vets, they came back doing that heroin, being spit on, man. I'm telling you, a lot of respect I have for them boys, not going totally off their rocker. You know what I'm saying? And when you do meet them, have a lot of respect for them, because a lot of them guys didn't want to be over there for that CIA drug running shit that was going on in Vietnam at the time. But yeah, so just as a warfighter, you gotta study the history of warfare, man, because I don't want these children, my children, and all these people killing for a corporate-owned government and controlled by a satanic-controlled corporate entity, which I like to consider, I call it Satan Incorporated, right? So some of these videos are just gonna start just showing you my language and how I speak as a warfighter. You know, so some of the biggest things I talk about is how it's all correlated to Satan Incorporated, and how our politicians are bought off, and how corporations can lobby using free speech in the form of monetary funding, but yes, us independent citizens only can contribute a certain dollar amount, way under what a corporation can do. So I mean, if nobody's talking about this and how the financial system works, we're absolutely sending our military brothers and sisters to die for it. Satan Incorporated. All right, and this is truly one of the final battles as a military member right now that I'm hyped to be a part of, because once you see that 9/11 was perpetrated by some of the people highest up in our own government, in correlation with other governments, to get, and it really boils down to stuff like the building. I know a lot of people claim a religion. Excellent. There's like so many of them. I hope y'all are all right. But I don't even remember what I was gonna say. Sometimes I lose my train of thought. Just religion, man. It's oh yeah, King Solomon's Temple. So this is, I'm gonna try to stay with the military section. You know, the Vatican, the Catholic Church, has a military side, its own bank. You gotta understand, once you get trained in the secret art of warfare, you can start to see things as they are a little bit better. Because a lot of it is psychological warfare, and that's what I try to tell as many people as I can about the art of what's going on in perceived reality. And then I love to talk about quantum entanglements and quantum physics, and you know how all this is related. But really, the structure of the banks and the war machine is what I'm talking about now. And it's like, oh yeah, I was a part of it, but now I'm a part that's trying to fight it too, because we're absolutely destroying the lives of so many people just so Satan Incorporated can have a little time to do whatever it is they gotta do. to stay in power doing their shit. Man, it's such a nice day. Alright, and the good thing about my life is, you know, PJ's just taught me how to push myself and to never quit. I live in a very secluded part of Colorado, high in the altitudes of the mountains, where if you want to come see me, you have to be fit to even consider coming to see me. You know, I like my life. I've done a lot of my life. You know, I wasn't taught by the greatest people in the world to respect knowledge and the path of gaining and the acquisition of knowledge. I had a smart, decorated master's degree father that, you know, he never really positively reinforced any kind of educational habits for me that I can remember. Honestly, he just told me it was mostly intrinsic, and he was right. I had to fix my brain. But I think there's great things to be said about people who acquire knowledge and deem that as a respectable path to living, especially if you're a dedicated healthcare person. I believe that the only way to really respect yourself is to get more knowledge, because you get to help more people in more ways, more accurately, is what I would say. Anyways, alright, so I probably have just a little bit of time on this. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my day. I thank y'all for watching. That was just like my military experience in a nutshell, I guess, and a little bit of some rambling on a beautiful day. I just want you to know that because of my military experience, the one thing that it does intertwine with in Flow Health. So Flow Health is just me. I'm just doing it for myself. This is Flow Health. All right. One thing people don't understand is I'm trying to get it out to you too, so you can be warriors like me, because everybody's got a PJ in them. All right. Or I like these other guys too. These things we do so that others may live, to liberate the press. And my favorite one in the world is Ye Who Dares Wins, the Special Forces of the Brits. Man, those guys, I was reading their Desert Warfare, the beginnings of the SAS with that Captain Sterling. They're just a bunch of rowdy people that think out the box, right? You can get a lot done with people who do that. I don't say they all have to be military weapons trained, you know, special weapons and tactics trained, but I can do a lot with the mentality of somebody who's open-minded, wants to learn, and wants to start calling out some of their negative behavioral patterns and start learning how to just kind of get a greater awareness of what it's like to be a warrior, a modern warrior in today's battlefield, which is full spectrum, global. You know, civilians are just pawns in this new form of warfare until they really understand that they can play a part in it if they choose. But they gotta know that the people in the military are the ones that are making the civilians the pawns, because it makes the battlefield easier to control. And so what I'm doing is trying to turn these pawns into people who will be more beneficial for the revolution against Satan Incorporated. And that means you have to question the government. You have to say, well, whose money are you getting and why? You know, tell me more about maritime law, and, you know, where is the best way to get black budget money, off books funding for stuff. And they'll tell you morality is thrown out the window, drug running comes in, smuggling, like it becomes the whole new science of the military, how to control your mind and how to smuggle stuff through to keep whatever they're going without the knowledge of anybody else. And that's the secret art of warfare, right? I use it still all the time today. But part of it is, well, let me tell you about it, the civilian untrained who's never had experience in having a Marine love you and the point where he knows if he's got you next to him, he's got a greater potential of surviving any war, right? And that's how I was trained, like part of a bigger team picture where we were gonna make sure that our guys came home. All right? So I guess another thing is how do you get home safely? You go harder and faster and further than your fucking enemy. And that's exactly what the secret art is how to train your body to go farther, faster, harder, further, more efficiently than your fucking enemy. And if you don't think that that's something that's important knowledge or important programming, I'll tell you this right now, that's not any kind of programming that I'm willing to part with easily. I actually am glad that that's part of my programming that I live with for the rest of my life. So I'm trying to help you and get a little bit of that in your spirit and soul adventure, what it's like to be a warrior, and to help other warriors on this new battlefield fight this new type of warfare. If anything, that's just a video because I was tired of that other one being up where people were just looking at it like, oh, poor boy, because it's not anything like that. I am a piece of U.S. Air Force history. I'm unique. I've touched PJ's hands in the form of where they're helping me train to become one of them myself. So here I am, the spirit of a PJ, doing whatever it is that they do, just having fun with this life, all right? And guess what? One of them made flow hell. This is what a PJ does when he's just a regular civilian living life, right? A big part of warfare is saying, look, you know, we got to train for it too. This is how I train for it always. All right, well, I guess I'm gonna sign off because I probably said enough just to kind of get the ball rolling in another direction. I want to thank everybody that had a part in the military with me, helped me train hard. People after the military like Jason Harper, one of my favorite people on the face of this planet. I feel like I'm the only one that understands him. I feel like he's one of the few that understands me. If you're listening, you and John Zorbas, Joey Swain, man, y'all are my guys. Penna, Klein, Chris Klein, all y'all, Yeto. I'd like to see all y'all. All right, man, I love y'all. I'll see y'all soon. And just know that this is just what a guy like me does for fun, for a life. I struggle too much after all that brain injury stuff, and I see people struggling. I don't want y'all to struggle no more. And half of me is like, the reason y'all struggle is because y'all don't have the best awareness of the picture. And right now, if you're talking about military spending on everything, over everything, then let's go ahead and get an accurate picture of what this is. We're involved in a bigger war, and they're just not telling you because it's psychological warfare to not tell you what's really going on, but they are spending all the money for war. And that's not even the money that they can show you. Just do your research. And I'm signing off as a warfighter. The three things that I dig about flow health for me is the health science aspect, the healing aspect, and then the warfighting aspect. All those three things make up flow health. And you know, I want to be a part of teaching y'all a little bit more about the accuracy of a better life. How to get one. All right, love everybody. I appreciate y'all listening to me ramble. Maybe y'all learned something. I just want you to know flow health is just the type of person who wants to do something medically, get this military style like rescue person, this rescue minded person, to just allow me to just create the... All right, everybody wants to hear their one most significant story in the military, so this is mine. All right, I was in Kuwait at the Kuwait City International Airport. This wasn't me jacking around or anything like that. I was on post. We had this guy. It's just so weird how complacency sets in with life, and redundancy will kill you literally in the situation that I was in. And that's kind of how it interpreted into my life as a whole. So I was sitting there, and we had this cook named Kunsi, and you know, we found out all about him, his family, what he was doing cooking for Americans, all this stuff. And one day he was scheduled to go see his family, and I had to be working the guard gate and this new guy comes in and just thinking, oh, well, it's like America. Just let him in, you know, kind of look over it, but let him in because, you know, you already scoped out in detail everything that's going on by the underground channels, I guess, you know, just being friendly with the natives. So man, I let this guy in, and next thing you know, I have my master sergeant who was in charge of the flight line, the control over the whole flight area. He goes, who's on gate? And I said, sir, it's me, Airman Nolan. And he goes, did you check for like the whole 9 bombs and shit underneath it? I said, no sir. On the radio, not lying to my master sergeant, because that's just how I was taught that we had to do it. You fucking own up to all your shit because somebody else can learn from it. Alright, you don't want everybody making the same fucking mistakes. Alright, so man, I got called up into this guy, and he literally ripped me up and down where I felt like I thought I was gonna cry. He said I could have killed everybody there. I could have blown up US resources. Like that was the craziest shit, because I never felt like I had betrayed so much off of being regular and not having my full intent and awareness on in this hostile environment. I got reamed. I almost cried. I couldn't believe that was really the fact where I had positioned myself to be faced with the probability that I could kill my friends by by being negligent, right? So a lot of responsibility, and I couldn't take that lightly from that moment on. And so, you know, as in this vessel, I feel like I'm still responsible for a lot of y'all, and I can help a lot of y'all be more successful if y'all choose to go at it a little bit more of a warrior road. Look, I love y'all. I'm just gonna keep that going. Hopefully y'all take anything that you need from it. That's what Flow Health is designed for, mostly for my vets. You know, those are the ones I heard the most. So if y'all need me for anything, just let me know. Yo, I just add this because Colorado, a lot of laws are arbitrary, right? You give these vets these wars based on faulty intelligence, but you won't let them smoke weed when they come back. Instead, you'll give them pills and let them drink themselves to death. I think this is all backwards and faulty in the form of what we really should be doing is open our minds to whatever a vet needs to heal. This is definitely one of them. This is why you'll see me do clips where I'm smoking openly. I moved from Georgia because you can't smoke there, and I moved to Colorado where you can. So I enjoy my life way more. I'm not saying move to Colorado, because we already have enough people here, and just enjoy life and do whatever it takes for you to heal. And just I don't just take professional advice. I want to know who the professionals get paid from. I want to know where their education got paid from, all that stuff, man. You can't fool me anymore. All right.